Professor wiped the dust from the ancient panel and felt his heart race. After 3 months of digging through the ruins of Outpost Kere 7, they had finally found something remarkable. The sealed vault door stood before him, covered in symbols that nobody had seen in thousands of years. "Come look at this," he called out to his team member. Hurried over, her translation device already scanning the markings. She was the best language expert in the galaxy, and even she looked confused. These symbols, they're similar to the old council scripts but different, much older. Their security officer stood nearby with his weapon ready. He didn't trust these old ruins. Too many explorers had disappeared in places like this. "Professor, we should report this to the council before opening it." Shook his head. "If we report it now, they'll send a military team and take over. This discovery is too important." He placed his hand on the vault's control panel. After several attempts, the door hissed and began to open. Inside, they found data cores. Not just one or two, but dozens of them, all perfectly preserved. Hands shook as she carefully lifted the first core. These could contain information from before the council existed. This is incredible. They worked for days to access the data. Most cores were damaged or corrupted, but managed to decode 3 of them. What they found changed everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. The data told stories of a species called humans. There were images of their world, a blue and green planet called Earth. There were records of their culture, their history, and their technology. But what shocked most were the military records. These humans had fought wars, not small conflicts but massive wars that covered their entire planet. The images showed weapons that made sick to his stomach. The humans had nearly destroyed themselves multiple times, yet they always survived. They always rebuilt. They always became stronger. "Look at this star chart," said, pointing at her screen. "It shows Earth's location. It's in the dead zone." The dead zone was a region of space that nobody visited. Strange energy readings and dangerous anomalies kept everyone away. The council had marked it as forbidden territory thousands of years ago. Studied the military records with growing concern. These humans, they were terrifying. Look at their weapons. Look at how they fought, if they still exist. "They can't still exist," said, though he didn't sound sure. "These records are 8,000 years old. They probably went extinct like the legends say." But wasn't convinced. What if they didn't? What if they're still out there in the dead zone? What if that's why the zone is so dangerous? Knew he had to present this to the council. He prepared his report carefully, including all the evidence they had found. 3 weeks later, he stood before the Galactic Council, ready to share the most important discovery in modern history. The council chamber was massive, with representatives from all 17 species. High Commander Vex of the sat in the military section, his scaled face showing boredom. They were the strongest warriors in the galaxy, and they knew it. Began his presentation, showing the data cores and explaining what they had found. He showed the images of humans, the records of Earth, and the location in the dead zone. "Humans are not myths," declared. "They were real, they might still be real, and if they are, we need to know about them." The council chamber erupted in noise. Some representatives laughed, others argued. Commander Vex stood up, his voice booming across the room. "This is nonsense," Vex said. "Humans are stories we tell children. Even if they were real once, they're long dead. And if they're not dead, they're primitive. They could conquer them in a day." Counselor Thane, a calculating diplomat, nodded in agreement. "Professor, your enthusiasm is admirable, but this evidence proves nothing. Old data cores can be corrupted. Images can be misinterpreted. The dead zone is dangerous because of natural phenomena, not because of some mythical species." Only ambassador of the spoke in defense. There were peaceful beings who valued knowledge above all. "We should investigate this carefully," said. "My people have detected strange signals from the dead zone for years. Perhaps there is a connection. But the council voted against funding an expedition. They had more important concerns: trade disputes, border conflicts, and the usual political games. The idea of humans existing was too far-fetched for most of them to take seriously. Left the council chamber feeling defeated. He had shown them proof and they had dismissed it, walked beside him, equally frustrated. "They're fools," she muttered. "They're afraid to admit they might be wrong." That evening, Ambassador visited privately. She brought data from her people's long-range sensors. "Look at these readings," she said. "For the past 10 years, we've detected organized broadcasts from the dead zone, not random noise. Organized signals like someone is trying to communicate or keep others away." Studied the data. His mind raced with possibilities. "We need to go there. We need to find Earth." "The Council will not allow it," warned. "Then we'll go without their permission," said firmly. "This is too important to ignore." Smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that. My people will help fund your expedition quietly, but you'll need a good pilot and a good crew." Over the next month assembled his team, joined immediately, eager to study human languages more. Minyu, a maverick pilot known for flying through dangerous space, agreed to captain their ship. A former military medic signed on for the adventure. Their ship, the Seeker, was small but fast. Minyu had modified it extensively, adding better shields and sensors. They loaded supplies for a 3-month journey and departed in secret. As they left the station, sent a private message. The security officer had discovered that Commander Vex had sent a stealth ship to follow them. They were interested in humans after all, but not for peaceful reasons. Read the message and made a decision. They would continue. Whatever they found in the dead zone, whatever the truth about humans was, the galaxy needed to know, even if it meant risking everything. The Seeker jumped into faster-than-light travel, heading toward the dead zone, toward the unknown, toward Earth. And in the dead zone, automated sensors detected their approach. Ancient systems activated, ones that had waited 8,000 years for this moment. Messages began transmitting to Earth, warning that someone was coming. Humanity, hidden for so long, was about to be discovered, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The Seeker shook violently as it entered the dead zone. Minyu gripped the controls, his eyes fixed on the navigation screens. All around them, space itself seemed wrong. Energy readings jumped wildly. The ship's system screamed warnings. "These aren't natural," said, studying the anomalies. "Look at the patterns. These are defensive systems, really old ones but still working." Felt a chill run down his spine. Defensive systems, against what? "Against anyone trying to enter," Minyu replied, steering carefully through the maze of energy fields. "Whoever built these didn't want visitors." It took them 5 days to navigate through the outer defenses. Each day, the systems became more complex and more dangerous. Minyu's skill as a pilot was the only thing keeping them alive. Finally, they broke through the last barrier. "I'm picking up a star system ahead," announced from her station. 9 planets, multiple moons, and, oh my stars. "What is it?" asked. "Ships, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, and orbital stations around the 3rd and 4th planets. This system is full of activity." They approached slowly, keeping their distance. Through their telescopes they could see the 3rd planet. It was beautiful, covered in blue oceans and green continents with white clouds swirling across its surface. Earth. It had to be Earth. But this was no dead world. The orbital space around Earth was filled with stations, dockyards, and ships moving in organized patterns. Colonies dotted the surfaces of other planets and moons. This was a thriving civilization. "They didn't go extinct," whispered. "They've been here all along, building and growing." Before could respond, alarms blared across the Seeker. Multiple targeting locks activated simultaneously, painting their ship from every direction. Minyu's hands flew across the controls. We've got company, multiple ships around us. Human warships appeared from nowhere. They were sleek and deadly looking, covered in weapons and armor. The Seeker was suddenly surrounded. A tractor beam grabbed their ship, and no matter what Minyu tried, he couldn't break free. "They're pulling us in," Minyu said. "I can't fight it." A massive ship loomed ahead of them, easily 10 times the size of the Seeker. The name on its hull read Indomitable in both human writing and, strangely, in Council standard script. They had been studying the Council's languages. The Seeker was pulled into a docking bay. As soon as they landed, armed soldiers surrounded their ship. S team had no choice but to open the airlock and surrender. The soldiers who entered were like nothing had seen before. They moved with perfect coordination, their armor looking advanced and powerful. Each soldier carried weapons that seemed designed for devastating effect. But what struck most was their eyes. These were not primitive savages. These were professional warriors. The lead soldier removed his helmet. He was young, with sharp eyes and a calm expression. "I am Lieutenant. You are now prisoners of the Earth Defense Force. Do not resist and you will not be harmed." Raised his hands. "We come in peace. We're scientists, not soldiers. We only wanted to make contact." Studied them carefully. "Scientists who sneak through our defense network. We'll see about that. Follow me." They were escorted through the massive ship, tried to observe everything. The technology was impressive, different from Council designs but clearly advanced. Crew members moved with purpose, and every system seemed to work with perfect efficiency. They were brought to a secure room where a woman in a captain's uniform waited. She was older, with hair and eyes that had seen many battles. "I am captain of the Indomitable. Sit down. We need to talk." The interrogation began. Captain asked hundreds of questions. Who were they? Where did they come from? How did they find Earth? Using her linguistic skills and the old data cores, managed to establish communication. When mentioned the Galactic Council and the 17 species, its expression changed from suspicion to shock. "Other species. A galactic civilization. We had no idea." "You didn't know," was equally surprised. "But you've been isolated for 8,000 years. Why?" Was silent for a long moment. Then she made a decision. "Come with me. You need to understand what we've been preparing for." She led them to an observation deck. Through the massive windows, they could see Earth floating below, but directed their attention to a holographic display. It showed images from 8,000 years ago. "We were explorers once," began. "We traveled far into space, meeting new worlds, seeking knowledge. Then we encountered something. We still don't know what it was. A machine intelligence, maybe, or something worse. It destroyed 3 of our colony worlds before we could even understand what was happening." The hologram showed scenes of destruction, entire planets burning, cities reduced to ash, ships torn apart. "We barely escaped," continued. "Our ancestors retreated to this system and built the defense network you passed through. We spent 8,000 years preparing, building, and advancing our military capabilities. We've been waiting for that thing to return." "Understood. You weren't hiding from us. You were preparing for war." "Exactly. Every human child learns about the threat. Every ship we build, every weapon we design, every soldier we train, it's all for the day when it comes back." Looked at them seriously. "And now you tell us there's a whole galaxy of civilizations out there, civilizations that don't know about the threat." Before could answer, alarms sounded throughout the ship. The expression hardened. "Battle stations, we have incoming." The stealth ship that had been following them chose that moment to attack. Commander Vex's son, Officer Tal, led the mission. His orders were simple: disable both ships, capture the expedition team, and take human prisoners for study. The ship fired its weapons, confident in its superior technology. The attack was devastating by Council standards. Against the Indomitable, it was barely noticed. The human ship's defense systems activated instantly. Point defense weapons tracked and destroyed incoming missiles with perfect accuracy. Energy shields absorbed the laser fire without strain. And then the indomitable returned fire. It wasn't a battle, it was a demonstration. The human ship's weapons tore through the vessel's shields like they weren't there. Rounds punched through armor. Missiles overwhelmed the defenses. Within 30 seconds, the stealth ship was crippled and drifting. Watched in horror, they had the most powerful military in the Council. Their ships were supposed to be unstoppable, yet the humans had destroyed it almost casually without even using their full power. Human Marines boarded the damaged ship and captured the survivors. Officer Tal was brought before Captain, his armor damaged and his pride shattered. Tal tried to maintain his arrogance. "You will release us immediately. The Empire demands it. We are the supreme military power in the galaxy. You will submit to our authority." Listen to his boasts about supremacy and council power. Her expression never changed. When Tal finally finished, she spoke quietly. "Lieutenant, show our guest the fleet roster." A hologram appeared, showing the ships in Earth system. Thousands of warships, orbital defense platforms, weapon systems that could crack planets, manufacturing facilities that could build new ships in weeks. An entire civilization turned into a war machine. "This is what we've built in 8,000 years," said. "Every human colony, every station, every resource we have, all dedicated to one purpose: survival. You attacked us with one ship. We have thousands. Your council has 17 species. We are one species, united, focused, and prepared." Tal's arrogance drained away as he understood the truth. They weren't the strongest military power in the galaxy. They never had been. They just hadn't met humanity yet. Made her decision. She ordered both the expedition team and the prisoners released. "Go back to your council," she told. "Tell them that humanity wishes to be left alone. We have no interest in your politics or your territories, but if you send military forces against us, we will defend ourselves. And you've seen what happens when you attack us." Tried to warn her. "The council won't accept this, especially. Their pride won't allow it. They'll send a fleet." Smile was cold. "Then let them come. We've been preparing for 8,000 years for something far worse than them." Stood before the Galactic Council once again, but this time nobody was laughing. The holographic displays showed everything: the human fleet, their advanced ships, and most damning of all, the recording of the stealth ship being destroyed in seconds. "This is impossible," Commander Vex roared, slamming his fist on the table. "Our ships are the finest in the galaxy." "Not anymore," said quietly. He showed them the detailed scans his team had taken. Human ships were faster, better armed, and far more durable than anything the Council had. Their soldiers were enhanced beyond what any species considered ethical. Their entire civilization was a military machine. Ambassador spoke up, her voice calm but firm. "We must respect their wishes. They want to be left alone. We should honor that and attempt peaceful relations slowly." The commercial species agreed. They saw opportunities for trade and cultural exchange. The smaller species were relieved that humans seemed content to stay in their own territory, but they saw only humiliation. "They destroyed our ship," Vex growled. "They captured our warriors, they insulted our honor. This cannot stand." Counselor Thane, always calculating, sided with the "Commander Vex is right, though perhaps not for the reasons he thinks. A species with superior military technology that refuses council authority is a threat to the stability of our entire civilization. We cannot allow them to exist outside our influence." The debate raged for hours. Finally, a vote was called. By a narrow margin, the council authorized military action. Not a full invasion, they claimed, but a limited operation to force humanity to negotiate and accept council oversight. High Commander Vex immediately began assembling the largest fleet in modern history. 300 warships from 12 different species, with 50 battlecruisers forming the core. Support ships, troop carriers, and supply vessels brought the total to over 500 ships. And watched the fleet depart with growing dread. They knew this was wrong. They had seen what human weapons could do to a single ship. What would they do to a fleet? Found after the fleet departed, the security officer looked troubled. "I contacted Minu," he said quietly. "I asked him to try to warn the humans before the fleet arrives. Maybe he can prevent this disaster." "Maybe," said, but he didn't sound hopeful. In human space, Captain's report had reached the highest levels of Earth's Defense Command. Fleet Admiral Sumi, the supreme commander of all human military forces, called an emergency meeting. The room filled with military leaders, government officials, and scientists. "The Council is sending a fleet," Sumi announced. "Our long-range sensors detected them 2 days ago, 300 warships moving toward our space." A younger admiral spoke up. "They're fools. Don't they understand what we've built here?" "They understand nothing," Sumi replied. "They've never faced a real threat. They've never had to prepare for extinction. They think their numbers will overwhelm us." She paused. "We need to show them they're wrong, not with words but with action." The decision was unanimous. If the Council wanted war, humanity would give them a war that would shock the galaxy. But not a war of conquest or revenge, a war of deterrence. Orders went out across human space. Every colony, every station, every shipyard activated war protocols. The distributed war economy that had existed for 8,000 years shifted into high gear. Manufacturing plants that built civilian equipment began producing weapons. Civilian ships received military upgrades. Reserves were called up. Within days, humanity had assembled a defensive fleet that dwarfed the Council force. Admiral Sumi positioned her ships carefully, creating a kill zone that the Council fleet would have to pass through. She wouldn't chase them across the galaxy. She would make them come to her on her terms. Meanwhile, Minu pushed his ship to its limits, racing to intercept the Council fleet. When he finally caught up to the massive armada, he transmitted a desperate message to the flagship, the Dominion's Fist. "Commander Vex, this is Minu. You must turn back. You don't understand what you're flying into. I've seen their ships. I've seen their weapons. You can't win this." Vex appeared on the communication screen, his face twisted with anger. "Traitor, you've been bought by the humans. Your lies won't save them." "I'm not lying," Minu pleaded. "Your stealth ship was destroyed in 30 seconds. 30 seconds. This fleet won't last much longer. Please turn back before it's too late." "We have 300 ships," Vex said coldly. "They might be advanced, but they cannot stand against our combined might. That will show these humans what true military power looks like." The transmission ended. Minu slammed his fist against the console. They wouldn't listen. They were going to their deaths and they didn't even know it. The Council fleet reached the edge of human space 3 weeks after departing. They formed into battle formation, with the powerful battlecruisers in front and support ships in the rear. It was an impressive sight, 500 ships moving in perfect coordination. Admiral Sumi watched them approach from the bridge of her flagship, the Defiant. Around her, dozens of other human warships waited in silent readiness. Thousands more were positioned throughout the system, hidden and ready. "They're not even using proper recon," her tactical officer observed. "They're just charging in." "They're overconfident," Sumi replied. "They've never lost a battle before. They think their technology and numbers make them invincible." She opened a communication channel that would broadcast to every Council ship. "This is Fleet Admiral Sumi of Earth's United Defense Command. You are entering sovereign human territory with hostile intent. You have one opportunity to withdraw. If you proceed, you will be engaging a species that has spent 8,000 years preparing for total war. We have no desire to fight you, but we will not submit. Choose wisely." On the Dominion's Fist, Commander Vex laughed at the message. Brave words from a species about to be conquered, All ships, weapons free. Begin the attack. The battle cruisers charged forward, their weapons powering up. Energy shields glowed bright as they prepared to unleash devastating firepower. The Council fleet's confidence was absolute. Then Admiral Sumi gave her order. All units, show them what they're facing. Space around the Council fleet suddenly filled with contacts. Hundreds of human ships dropped their stealth systems simultaneously. They weren't just in front of the Council fleet. They were above, below, and on all sides. The Council had walked straight into a trap. Vex stared at his sensors in disbelief. Where there had been empty space moments ago, there were now 600 human warships, all with weapons locked on Council ships. "Impossible," he whispered. Admiral Sumi's voice came across all frequencies, cold and clear. "You were warned. All ships, weapons free. Show them what humanity has built." The first salvo from human ships was like nothing the Council had ever experienced. Fired solid rounds at incredible speeds, punching through energy shields that were designed to stop energy weapons. Missiles swarmed toward their targets with advanced tracking that couldn't be jammed. Lasers cut through armor with focused intensity. 3 battle cruisers were crippled in the first minute. Their shields collapsed under the kinetic impacts. Their armor, designed to resist laser and plasma, couldn't handle solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. Secondary explosions ripped through the damaged ships. "Return fire," Vex screamed. "All ships return fire." The Council fleet responded, unleashing their own weapons. Laser beams and plasma bolts filled space with deadly light. Against most enemies, it would have been devastating. Against human ships, it was barely effective. Human shields absorbed the energy attacks with minimal drain. Their armor, designed with thousands of years of engineering, reflected or dispersed the heat. And where the Council ships had focused on powerful but specialized weapon systems, human ships carried redundant systems that kept fighting even when damaged. A human destroyer took a direct hit from a battle cruiser's main weapon. Its shields failed and its armor was breached. In any Council ship, that would have been a mission kill. The human destroyer simply sealed the damaged sections, rerouted power, and continued fighting with its remaining weapons. Human fighters launched from carriers, swarming through space in organized chaos. The pilots flew with enhanced reflexes, their minds connected directly to their ships through neural interfaces. They dodged and weaved through defensive fire that should have destroyed them, striking at vulnerable spots with deadly precision. Commander Vex watched his fleet being systematically torn apart. Ships that had been the pride of their species were reduced to burning wrecks. The Council's superior numbers meant nothing when the humans could simply outfight them. The battle had been raging for 2 hours, and the Council fleet was losing badly. Commander Vex stared at his tactical display with growing horror. 50 ships destroyed, over 100 more damaged, and the humans showed no signs of slowing down. "Sir, we need to withdraw," his second officer urged. "We're being slaughtered." Vex wanted to refuse. His pride demanded that he keep fighting, but he was a military commander, not a fool. "All ships begin retreat formation. Fall back to—" His words were cut off as human ships moved to block the escape routes. They had predicted the retreat and positioned themselves accordingly. The Council fleet was trapped. A new voice came across the communication channels. Admiral Sumi spoke calmly, as if she was discussing the weather instead of a battle. "Commander Vex, your fleet is surrounded. You have 2 choices. Surrender now or watch every ship under your command be destroyed. You have 60 seconds to decide." "The do not surrender," Vex growled, though his voice lacked conviction. "Then you will die. 59 seconds." Vex looked around his bridge. His crew members stared at him, waiting for orders. These were soldiers who trusted him to lead them. How many had already died because of his pride? On the tactical display, human ships tightened their formation. They weren't attacking anymore. They were waiting. and somehow that was more terrifying than the battle had been. 30 seconds, Sumi announced. Sir, please, his second officer begged, don't let them kill us for nothing. Vex closed his eyes. In that moment, he understood something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. They had never been the strongest warriors in the galaxy. They had just been the strongest warriors that anyone knew about, until now. This is Commander Vex. We surrender. The human attack ceased immediately. Ships that had been preparing to fire held their weapons. Admiral Sumi's voice carried across the channel again, still calm but with something that might have been relief. Wise choice. All Council ships will power down weapons and shields. You will be escorted to the edge of human space. Damaged ships will be tractored. Your wounded will receive medical care. Resist these instructions and we will resume hostilities. One by one, the Council ships. What choice did they have? Human vessels moved among them, taking control of the situation with professional efficiency. Medical ships arrived to help the wounded. Engineering teams assisted with damaged vessels. On the Indomitable, Captain received orders to escort the Council fleet out of human space. She stood on her bridge, watching the defeated armada. Beside her, Lieutenant looked at the casualty reports. We lost 8 ships, he said quietly. 3,000 casualties. The Council lost 47 destroyed and over 100 damaged. Their casualties are in the hundreds of thousands. Nodded, the disparity was shocking but not surprising. We trained for this. They didn't. They fought the war they knew how to fight. We fought the war we designed. As the defeated fleet began its slow journey out of human space, the real demonstration of human power arrived. New contacts appeared on every sensor. Massive ships, each 3 times the size of the largest Council vessel, dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Dreadnoughts, the ultimate weapons that humanity had built to fight their ancient enemy. There were 12 of them, each one capable of cracking a planet's surface. They hadn't fired a single shot during the battle. They didn't need to. Their presence alone made the point. These were the weapons humanity had been building for 8,000 years. The Council fleet had just fought the defensive force, the ships meant to protect human space during an invasion. The dreadnoughts were the offensive force, the ships meant to take the war to the enemy. On the Dominion's fist, Commander Vex watched the dreadnoughts take up positions around his fleet. His tactical officer ran scans and went pale. Sir, the power readings from those ships. Each one has enough firepower to destroy our entire fleet by itself. Vex said nothing. What could he say? He had led the Council's finest military force into disaster. He had ignored warnings and charged blindly into battle with an enemy he didn't understand. And now he was being escorted home in disgrace, surrounded by weapons that could annihilate his entire civilization. The journey back to Council space took 3 weeks, 3 weeks of silence and shame. Human ships maintained their escort positions, professional and distant. They provided supplies and medical aid, but no mercy for wounded pride. Captain met with Commander Vex once during the journey. She found him in his quarters, staring at reports of the dead and wounded. You tried to warn us, Vex said without looking up. That pilot mean you. He told us we didn't understand what we were facing. I called him a traitor. You believed what you wanted to believe, replied. Your entire species was built on the idea that you were the strongest, accepting that you weren't meant accepting that your whole worldview was wrong. Why didn't you destroy us? Vex asked. You could have those dreadnoughts. You barely used any of your real power. Sat down across from him. Because we're not conquerors. We don't want to rule the galaxy or destroy species that oppose us. We just want to be left alone. We fought you to prove a point, not to exterminate you. What point? That humanity is not a myth. That we are real, we are powerful, and we will defend ourselves. You attacked us and we defeated you. But we didn't pursue your fleeing ships or bomb your. We could have, but we chose mercy instead. She stood up. Remember that when you return home. Remember that humanity chose peace after proving we could have chosen war. When the Council fleet finally reached the edge of human space, Admiral Sumi transmitted a final message. You are now leaving human territory. Do not return with military forces. If you do, we will not be as gentle as we were today. Tell your council that humanity wishes for peace, but we are prepared for war. The choice is theirs. The human ships turned back, disappearing into their own space. The Council fleet continued on, carrying the survivors of the worst military defeat in galactic history. News of the battle spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Every species heard about the legendary humans who had appeared and destroyed the Council's military power in a single engagement. The political aftermath was immediate and brutal. High Commander Vex was removed from his command the moment he returned. The Council blamed him for the disaster, but everyone knew the truth. It wasn't just Vex who had failed. The entire Council had failed by underestimating humanity. This position as the galaxy's military authority collapsed overnight. Species that had accepted dominance because they had no choice suddenly saw alternatives. If they could be beaten, they weren't invincible. The careful power balance that had maintained galactic peace for thousands of years began to fracture. Councillor Thane, who had voted for military action, faced calls for resignation. Several species threatened to leave the Council entirely. The political chaos was unprecedented. Only Ambassador seemed to rise above the disaster. She had opposed the military action from the beginning. Now, with the Council in crisis, they turned to her. She was appointed to lead a new diplomatic initiative toward humanity. We made a terrible mistake, announced to the Council. We let pride and fear guide us instead of wisdom. Now we must make things right. I will go to human space, not with weapons, but with an honest desire for peace. The Council voted to approve her mission. What choice did they have? The alternative was continued isolation from the most powerful military force anyone had ever encountered. In human space, Admiral Sumi received the request for diplomatic contact. She sat in her office, reading the message from Ambassador. Around her, Earth's defenses remained on high alert. The battle had been won, but the war for humanity's future was just beginning. "What do you think?" Sumi asked Captain, who stood nearby. "I think they're sincere," replied. "At least is. She was the only one who tried to prevent this disaster." Sumi nodded slowly. "Send a reply. Tell them we'll receive their diplomatic mission, but make it clear that we're not joining their council. We're not submitting to their authority. If they want relations with humanity, it will be as equals or not at all. And if they refuse those terms..." Sumi looked out at Earth, hanging peaceful and beautiful in space. 8,000 years of preparation, thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, all built to protect this world and its people. "Then we go back to being alone," she said quietly. "We've done it before, we can do it again." The human diplomatic ship arrived at Council Central Station 6 weeks after the battle. It was smaller than the warships that had defeated the Council fleet, but everyone noticed it was still heavily armed. Humanity wasn't taking chances. Admiral Sumi stepped off the ship first, her uniform crisp and her bearing military straight. Behind her came Captain and a squad of Marines in ceremonial armor that didn't hide the weapons they carried. The last to exit was a human cultural expert whose job was to help bridge the gap between humanity and the galaxy. The docking bay was packed with representatives from all 17 species. Everyone wanted to see the humans in person. Some faces showed fear, others showed curiosity, a few showed barely concealed hostility, and waited at the front of the crowd. When Sumi's eyes found them, she nodded in recognition. These were the ones who had started everything by discovering the truth about humanity. "Welcome to Council Central Station," Ambassador said, stepping forward. "Thank you for coming. We have much to discuss." The formal negotiations took place in the Great Council chamber. Sumi sat across from the council representatives, her posture relaxed but her eyes sharp. She had spent 8,000 years of human history to prepare for this moment. "Let me be clear about humanity's position," Sumi began. "We will not join your council. We will not accept your authority over human space. We will not allow council military forces anywhere near our territory. These points are not negotiable." Several council members shifted uncomfortably. They weren't used to being dictated to, especially by a species they had dismissed as myths just months ago. Councillor Thane, despite his diminished position, tried to object. "You ask much and offer nothing. Why should the council accept these terms?" Sumi's expression didn't change. "Because you have no choice. You attacked us and we defeated you. We could have destroyed your fleet completely, but we chose mercy. We could march on your worlds, but we choose peace. You should be grateful for our restraint, not questioning our terms." The bluntness shocked the council. They were used to diplomatic language and careful negotiations. Sumi spoke like a military commander stating facts, which, realized, was exactly what she was. "However," Sumi continued, "humanity is not unreasonable. We offer trade in certain technologies, medical advances, manufacturing techniques, and agricultural methods. We will share knowledge that can improve life across the galaxy. We also propose a mutual defense pact." "Defense against what?" asked, genuinely curious. Sumi's expression darkened. "Against the real threat, the one that made us hide for 8,000 years." She activated a holographic display showing data from humanity's ancient encounter. The council members watched in growing horror as they saw the destruction of human colonies, the power of the unknown enemy, and the desperate retreat that had saved humanity. "We call it the threat," Sumi explained. "We don't know what it is. A machine intelligence, an alien species beyond our understanding, or something else entirely. We only know that it destroyed everything in its path and we barely escaped." She showed more recent data, sensor readings from the edge of the galaxy. "Our long-range detection systems have been tracking anomalies for the past 5 years. The patterns match what we saw 8,000 years ago. We believe it's returning." The council chamber fell silent. This recontextualized everything. Humanity hadn't built their military to threaten others. They had built it to survive something far worse. "If this threat returns," said slowly, "it won't distinguish between humans and council species." "Exactly," Sumi replied. "That's why we're offering an alliance. Not because we need you, but because you'll need us, and because fighting together gives us all better odds of survival." The negotiations continued for weeks. The terms were hammered out carefully. Humanity would maintain complete sovereignty over the Dead Zone, now officially renamed the Terran Exclusion Zone. A demilitarized buffer zone would separate human and council space. Trade would be allowed through specific checkpoints with strict protocols. Most controversially, humanity insisted on monitoring council military activities near their border. The idea of being watched by the primitive humans was humiliating to many species, but this defeat made it impossible to refuse. In exchange, humanity would share carefully selected technologies, not weapons, but medical advances that could save millions of lives, manufacturing techniques that could improve efficiency, agricultural methods that could feed growing populations. During the negotiations, something unexpected happened. People started talking to each other as individuals, not just as representatives of their species. The human cultural expert formed a friendship with. They spent hours discussing languages, art, and history. Was fascinated by human culture, the music, the literature, the thousands of years of creative works that humanity had produced in isolation. "You're not what I expected," admitted one day. "The battle recordings showed warriors and weapons, but there's so much more to you." Smiled. "That's the difference between soldiers and people. Our military is strong because we have something worth protecting. Our families, our culture, our way of life. The weapons are just tools. The people using them are what matters. Captain developed a mutual respect with the security officer. They discussed military philosophy and tactics. Was impressed by how much human military thinking focused on protecting civilians and minimizing casualties. We fight to end wars, not to start them, explained. Every weapon we build, every tactic we develop, it's all designed around one goal: getting our people home safely. Even some warriors approached human marines with grudging respect. They valued strength above all, and humans had proven their strength beyond doubt. What began as wounded pride transformed into professional acknowledgement. "You fight well," an officer told one of the Marines. "Your tactics are strange to us but effective." The Marine nodded. "You fought well too, you just fought the wrong fight. You brought warships to fight warships. We brought a defense system to protect our home. Those are two different things." During a private meeting, Admiral Sumi shared more details with Ambassador and selected council members. She showed them the full extent of humanity's preparations for the threat. Deep space weapons platforms, automated defense networks, factories that could build ships in days instead of months, colonies that doubled as fortress worlds, and weapons, so many weapons, designed to fight an enemy that could destroy planets. "We've spent 8,000 years building all of this," Sumi said. "Every generation contributed. Every human child grows up knowing about the threat and knowing their duty to prepare. It's shaped our entire civilization." Understood something then. You're not warriors because you love fighting. You're warriors because you love what you're protecting. "Yes," Sumi replied simply. "And now you're our neighbors. Like it or not, if the threat comes back, it will come through your space to reach us, or through our space to reach you. We're in this together." The treaty was signed in a ceremony broadcast across the galaxy. Humanity and the Galactic Council officially established diplomatic relations. The terms were clear: mutual respect, limited trade, and defensive alliance against external threats. As Sumi prepared to return home, she had one last conversation with the professor who had started everything by refusing to accept that humans were myths. "Thank you," Sumi said. "You took a risk by looking for us. You could have stayed quiet and lived a comfortable life." Shook his head. "Science is about seeking truth wherever it leads. The truth is that humans are real and the galaxy is better for knowing it." "I hope you're right," Sumi replied. "The next few years will be difficult. The Council is adapting to a new reality. Some species will accept us, others will resent us. But at least now, if the threat returns, we won't face it alone." The human delegation departed, leaving behind a changed galaxy. The power structures that had existed for thousands of years were broken. They were humbled. The Council was fractured, but new possibilities had opened up. 6 months later, visited the edge of the Terran exclusion zone. She had been corresponding with, exchanging cultural information and building genuine friendship. As she watched human patrol ships moving along the border, she thought about how much had changed. The galaxy had believed humans were myths, comfortable stories about a lost civilization. Then the humans had revealed themselves, not with words or diplomacy, but with the undeniable reality of their power. Some people feared them, others admired them, but everyone respected them. Received a message from with an attachment. It was a human song called Indomitable, written by veterans of the battle with the Council. As she listened to the music and read the translated lyrics, she felt tears in her eyes. The song wasn't about victory or glory. It was about standing firm when the darkness comes, about protecting the people you love, about never giving up no matter how bad things get. That was the real truth about humanity, realized. They weren't stronger or smarter or better than other species. They were just more prepared. 8,000 years of preparation, building and planning for the worst possible scenario. And when the worst came, they had been ready. The stars shone the same as they always had, but the galaxy was forever different. Humanity had returned to the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same. In deep space, beyond the edge of known territory, something ancient stirred. Sensors that had been dormant detected the movement of civilizations. The threat, whatever it was, had noted the activity. It was coming, slowly but inevitably. But this time humanity knew it was coming, and this time they wouldn't be alone. On Earth, in the Defense Command Center, Admiral Sumi watched the long-range sensors. The anomalies were growing stronger. The threat was real and it was approaching. "How long?" she asked her tactical officer. 5 years, maybe 10. It's hard to be certain with these readings. Sumi nodded. 5 to 10 years. Time to prepare. Time to strengthen the alliance with the Council. Time to build more ships, train more soldiers, and develop new weapons. Humanity had spent 8,000 years preparing for this moment. They had hidden, built, and grown strong. They had revealed themselves to the galaxy not out of desire for conquest, but out of need for allies. "Send a message to all fleet commanders," Sumi ordered. "Tell them the countdown has begun. Tell them to prepare for war." The officer hesitated. "Should we inform the Council?" "Yes," Sumi decided. "They're our allies now. They deserve to know what's coming. Besides, we'll need every ship, every soldier, and every world united if we're going to survive what's ahead." The message went out across human space and beyond to the Council. The threat was returning. The ancient enemy that had nearly destroyed humanity 8,000 years ago was coming back. But this time the galaxy was ready, or at least as ready as they could be. Humanity had spent 8,000 years preparing for this war. Now, finally, it was beginning. And when the darkness came, humanity would stand firm, not alone but with allies, not as myths or legends but as warriors fighting for their home. The ships were ready, the weapons were ready, the soldiers were ready. Humanity was ready. Let the threat come. This time the galaxy would fight back.